The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
59 years, 24 films, one name.
Bond.
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 Bond. James Bond.
The James Bond series is one of the longest running in cinema history, second only to Godzilla. In the nearly 6 decades he's been on screen, 007 has embarked on many missions around the world, and luckily, MI6 declassified the information, and those were made into films.
Really?
No, not really.
And now it's time for part 2 of our countdown. It's the highest grossing James Bond film. It's arguably Daniel Craig's best, and it's what we're starting today's list with. When James Bond's latest assignment goes terribly wrong, it leads to a calamitous turn of events. Undercover agents around the world are exposed and MI6 is attacked, forcing M to relocate the agency. With MI6 now compromised inside and out, M turns to the one man she can trust, James Bond. Aided by only a field agent, Moneypenny, Bond takes to the shadows and follows the trail to Silva, a man from M's past who wants to settle an old score. Released for the 50th anniversary, the 23rd Bond film reunites Daniel Craig's Bond with some classic 007 tropes that manages to feel fresh. The only thing that doesn't feel fresh is the plot. It's been compared to The Dark Knight heavily, as you can see on screen. But does that make it bad? I'm gonna let a couple more comparisons play out and you tell me. Pierce Brosnan's third outing as Bond was a solid successor to the next film on our list. Bond must race to defuse an international power struggle with the world's oil supply hanging in the balance. Released at the end of the last millennium, The World Is Not Enough offered a sexy, action-packed James Bond film that fit in well with contemporary action films of the time. Brosnan is a little more serious here. The job is more personal. But that doesn't mean this film isn't wrought with great action and humor. The ski chase, the underwater escape, and the opening on the Thames redefines what action means to the James Bond franchise. It also spawned a damn good video game for the N64. The PlayStation, that version sucked. Media mogul Elliot Carver wants his news empire to reach every country on the globe, but the Chinese government will not allow him to broadcast there. Carver doesn't take no for an answer and plans to use his media empire to fuel the flames of war between the Western world and China. Thankfully, James Bond is onto the insane tycoon and travels to China to stop him with the help of Chinese secret agent Wei Lin. One of the most accurate Bond films in the history of the franchise, Tomorrow Never Dies was way ahead of its time and features a villain that fits in right with today. Elliot Carver is the fictionalized version, but Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg fill the role today in real life. Tomorrow Never Dies has one of the best gadgets of the entire series, James Bond's Sony Ericsson. What a great phone. Nah, not really. It doesn't matter though, it controls his car. That being said, the car chase in Tomorrow Never Dies is also an all-time great. It may be the absolute best in the franchise. No, wait. It is. T. Dalt may be known as the deadly 007, but here he has a heart of gold. The Living Daylights is one of the all-time great epics. In the film, James Bond helps KGB officer Georgy Koskov defect during the symphony performance. During his debriefing, Koskov reveals that a policy of assassinating defectors has been instated by the new KGB head, Leonid Pushkin. But as Bond explores the threat, a counterplot surfaces involving a shady American arms dealer and a pair of Russian assassins, Nekros and Karamolovy. First outings for a new Bond tend to be their best, and this one is no different. From the start, we're met with action that Roger Moore couldn't achieve, a harder edge, and a socially conscious effort to have Bond comment on the AIDS crisis. Yeah, they did that by only having him sleep with one woman. That number may be low, but everything else ranks pretty high. It was just once, but a good once. A one and done most of you probably missed. George Lazenby's one outing as James Bond is one of the absolute best. 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service is incredibly different from the Connery films that came before it, and that's a good thing. Bond is faster, punchier, and just as suave as always, but this film shows a soft side of 007, and unlike Daniel Craig, when Lazenby's Bond cried, it meant something. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the film where James Bond falls in love, gets married, and has it all taken away from him. In the film, Agent 007 and the adventurous Tracy DiVincenzo join forces to battle the evil Spectre organization in the treacherous Swiss Alps. But the group's most powerful leader, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, is launching his most calamitous scheme yet, a germ warfare plot that could kill millions. It's hard talking about this one unless you've seen it, but if you have, that ski chase is killer. Look up, look down, look out. It's the biggest Bond of all time. Thunderball brought in $141 million in 1965 dollars. Adjusted for inflation, Thunderball brought in over $1.2 billion, making it the most seen theatrically James Bond film. Thunderball features the terrorist group Spectre, who hijacks 2 warheads from a NATO plane and threatens widespread nuclear destruction to extort £100 million. The dashing agent 007 James Bond is sent to recover the warheads from the heart of Largo's lair in the Bahamas, facing underwater attacks from sharks and the like. Hot on the heels of Goldfinger, Thunderball has all the classic 007 hallmarks, but amped up to 11. This is the film that features a jetpack after all, and it was a real one. If there's any shortcomings for Thunderball, it's the length. It's a long Bond film and it drags a bit during the underwater fight, but the top-notch action, stunning locales, and even more stunning women, Thunderball is a classic you don't want to miss. If you could only watch one classic 007 film, this should be it. Goldfinger is the James Bond movie of the 1960s. In the film, a powerful tycoon, Art Goldfinger, has initiated Operation Grand Slam, a cataclysmic scheme to raid Fort Knox and obliterate the world's economy. What can be said about Goldfinger that hasn't already? It's great. You knew that. It's iconic. Duh. Goldfinger has it all. It takes time away from the then interconnected plot of Spectre and focuses squarely on Art Goldfinger and his henchman Oddjob, which is a huge improvement over From Russia with Love's forgettable villains. Though not physically intimidating, Goldfinger is a powerful man with a weak ego that makes him a great villain. Goldfinger also features Pussy Galore. Yeah, great name. Do yourself a favor, track down a Pussy Galore trading card. In the 60s, they weren't allowed to print the word pussy, so they wrote this instead. One good turn deserves another. When James Bond first met Goldfinger's woman pilot, he thought of her as just another woman, and a criminal at that. As she showed Bond around Goldfinger's extensive Kentucky horse farm, they wandered into the barn, and the woman pilot thought Bond was after information. Agent 007 discovered a new side of her character as she used judo on him with surprising to Bond results. But the handsome Bond was no stranger to unarmed combat himself, and soon he showed Goldfinger's pilot a trick or two of his own. By proving he was superior in judo and then he could not be taken by surprise, Bond gained her respect. Sean Connery as James Bond 007, Honor Blackman is Goldfinger's pilot in Goldfinger, released through United Artists, 1965, Gilrose Productions, Limited, Danjak, SA. Printed in the USA. If it sounds like we hate Roger Moore, we don't. We just have high standards, and Live and Let Die exceeds all of those. Live and Let Die is one part Bond film, one part blaxploitation, and wholly incredible. When Bond investigates the murders of 3 fellow agents, he finds himself a target, evading vicious assassins as he closes in on the powerful Kananga. Known on the streets as Mr. Big, Kananga is coordinating a global threat, using tons of self-produced heroin. As Bond tries to unravel the mastermind's plan, he meets Solitaire, a beautiful tarot card reader whose magic is crucial to the crime lord. As we stated earlier, an actor's first outing as Bond tends to be the best, and that's the case here. Live and Let Die stars Roger Moore with a harder edge, and it works so well, and it's disappointing when it's softened around the time of The Spy Who Loved Me. Live and Let Die has all the hallmarks of a 007 movie, but turns them on their ear and makes this one of the coolest flicks of the 70s. Bond looks good in blaxploitation, but I'm glad there was never another 007 film like this. The supernatural shock ending is a lot of fun, and they tried to replicate that level of horror in later films, but much like Roger Moore's wardrobe, it clashes. The standout of this movie is the boat chase to the Louisiana Bayou. There have been boat scenes in Bond movies, but this is the best one, and I'm looking directly at you, The World Is Not Enough. I love you, but Live and Let Die is better. It's rare that a franchise starts out so strong, but that's exactly what Dr. No does. In the film, James Bond battles the mysterious Dr. No, a scientific genius bent on destroying the US space program. As the countdown to disaster begins, Bond must go to Jamaica, where he encounters the beautiful Honey Rider to confront a megalomaniacal villain in his massive island headquarters. It's simple by today's standards and incredibly simple by Bond standards, but that's where its real strengths lie. Dr. No has very little fat on it. It knows what it needs to be, what it wants to be, and it does that incredibly well. Sean Connery perfected the role of James Bond before the cameras ever started filming. There never was a moment where he was not perfect in the role. He's just so natural on screen. He would be even more natural in the next film. The most serious Bond film that can still be fun. And I'm looking at you, Daniel Craig. From Russia with Love is a beautiful film full of intrigue and suspense. Bond is back, this time battling a secret crime organization known as Spectre. Russian Rosa Klebb and Kronstein, see what I mean earlier about memorable names, are out to steal a decoding device known as the Lector, using the ravishing Tatiana Romanova to lure Bond into helping them. Bond willingly travels to meet Tatiana in Istanbul, where he must rely on his wits to escape with his life in a series of deadly encounters with the enemy and escape with the Lector. Made because John F. Kennedy put the book on his list of favorites, From Russia with Love is the second Bond film and by our list the second best. Set and shot during the Cold War, From Russia with Love weaves a wonderful web of mystery as Bond gets ever closer to his goal, only to have it moved further away. This film is a game of cat and mouse, except the mouse is licensed to kill, and he does. From Russia with Love amps up the action from Dr. No in every conceivable way. It raises the stakes and turns everything up to 11. If it's so great then, why isn't it number 1? We finally reached number 1.
You were expecting someone else?
Goldeneye, the 17th James Bond film, had the Herculean task of introducing James Bond to a new generation, all while continuing the traditions of the past. Goldeneye created the modern James Bond. When a powerful satellite system falls into the hands of Alex Trevelyan, aka Agent 006, a former ally turned enemy, only James Bond can save the world from a space weapon that, in one short pulse, could destroy the Earth. As Bond squares off against his former compatriot, he also battles Trevelyan's stunning ally, Xenia Onatopp, an assassin who uses pleasure as her ultimate weapon. If Casino Royale wasn't ashamed of itself, it would be Goldeneye. Goldeneye is a celebration of everything that came before it. One could argue it's the second most important Bond film. Goldeneye was tasked with reviving the franchise, creating the modern Bond, and setting the course for the future. Mission accomplished. It also has one of the strongest supporting casts in Bond history. Pierce Brosnan is great, but so is Sean Bean, Famke Janssen, Isabel Scorupco, Judi Dench, Samantha Bond, Jodan Baker, etc. Everyone in Goldeneye is excellent. This is the film that also changed the Bond-Q dynamic. Connery hated Q, Moore humored him, but it wasn't until Brosnan there was more of a mutual respect/father relationship. They tried it in License to Kill, but that was just a sentence. In Goldeneye, it's actually on screen. Goldeneye hits the James Bond hallmarks the best in the franchise. One of the best introductions to character, one of the best name deliveries, one of the best fight scenes, one of the best screen deaths. Every scene in Goldeneye is iconic in some way. The film would go on to break records and introduce James Bond to a whole new generation. It worked, and that's why it's number 1 on our list. So what about No Time to Die? Where does that one rank? Well, come back tomorrow for a review of that film, and I'll rank them all. So folks, let us know what you think. What is your Bond ranking? What are your Bond rankings? Let us know down in the comments below. I'd love to read them. I'd like to know what your favorite James Bond film is. It just so happens that our list from the channel coincides with my personal number 1. So if you guys are interested this week on the podcast, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on World Class Bullshitters, we'll make sure to go through our list, each and every one of us, so you can blame who you want to blame for this list. Actually, we stand by it pretty happily, but we'd love to hear what you guys think, so let us know. Alright folks, I'm gonna get out of here. I got a lot of stuff to take care of, including going to see No Time to Die in about 2 hours, so wish me luck. But until then folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.